Here's how to manage your Discord server using only plain language AI workflows. You know, sometimes I feel like there are so many places that people can reach out to my business that it's hard to always keep track and respond to everybody. It'd be nice to have AI that can respond in Discord every time there's a message and then draft a response and give me an opportunity to check it. So that's what we're going to build today. To start off, I'm going to go to Settings. I'll click Connections. By the way, this is the new Aidolons version 2. That's aidolons.com. But these same principles apply no matter what tool you're using. So I'm going to search for connections. And I'm going to look for Discord bot. And I'll connect. And it's bringing me through the OAuth flow. So I'll just continue through this. And boom, it's connected. There we go. Next, let's write our workflow. So I'll click New Workflow. And the first thing I want to do is set a trigger. So I'm going to click under Triggers in my Discord bot. I'll say New Messages, Channel ID. Let's see. So in Discord, the channel ID is the last part of the URL right here. So I'll just grab that, bring it back over here, and paste that in. For these, the defaults are fine, so we're going to leave those. And I'll click Add. Cool, so now anytime there's a new message in that Discord channel, this workflow is going to run for me. So let's define our steps. I'm going to switch this to heading 2, and I'm going to say steps. Then we'll have a numbered list. For step 1, we'll say, based on the messages, you see, because when this trigger fires, it's going to pass the messages into the workflow. Draft a response and create a proposal. This is going to give me the chance to look it over before it actually sends anything. And then for step 2, I'm going to say, send the response. Now, because of the proposal system in Aidolons, it won't actually be able to reach this step until I explicitly approve the proposal. All right, I want to get a little bit more detailed with this, but let's just see if it works first. So this trigger is already set up, and this should run anytime it sees a new message. So I'll hop back over to Discord, and here I'll just say whatever. I'll say, hi robot, what's good? And when I send this, it's going to hit that trigger. So now I can hop back over. All right, I'm back in my workflow here. You can see that it started running. All right, our workflow run is really just a glorified chat. All right, this data right here contains the message we just sent, as well as a chat context. The system feeds it data and then uses the workflow as the prompt. All right, so down here we have this pending proposal. So I'll click this, and here's what it's proposing to say. Right now, it's only showing the response, but later on we're going to make it so that it shows us the message that it's responding to and the chat context too. All right, now I can edit this if I want, or I can talk to the bot and make it edit it for me. For now, let's click accept. Boom. And now it's continuing the run, and it looks like it's done. Let's go see if it worked. And there it is, Aidolons the robot talking to Aidolons the person. So that's a basic proof of concept, but there's a problem. You'll notice it just sent me a new proposal. The reason is because it launched a new workflow run. Basically, it's responding to its own message. So that's fine. That just means that we have to tell it not to respond to its own messages. So let's just tell it that. I'm going to scroll up in this chat and dig through some of this data here. This ID right here, this is the user ID for the bot. So I'm going to copy this. And here I'm going to say, if the user ID of the last message is not this number, and now I can indent these other numbers here. So what I'm basically saying here is that if the message comes from itself, it shouldn't continue. All right, but notice what I did here. I created a situation where I don't have an instruction for what it should do if the user ID is this number. So down here, let's just say if the user ID of this is, and then we can specify do nothing and respond that the last message was yours. It might seem ridiculous to have to put this, but you have to understand that an AI agent's first instinct is to act, to do something, which means that I have to explicitly give it permission to do nothing. Maybe I don't have to, maybe it would get it right on its own, but with Aidolons, we want to create reliable AI systems. All right, so why don't we respond to this proposal here? And here it is just talking to itself, so I'm going to actually reject this, and let's see if it worked. Hi again, robot, and I'll jump back here, and it just started the new run. So now I'll click the proposal, and let's accept this so it sends it. And here it goes. Let's check, make sure we got it, and we sure did. And let's just wait a minute and see what happens when it gets this message. All right, and it found it. And here we go. It recognized that the author ID is itself, and it followed the workflow perfectly. This is working pretty nicely so far, but I think we can make it even cleaner. Let's give ourselves some space here, and I'm going to create a new heading. This one we'll call proposal template. I'm going to put this one in a code block. And basically we're just going to put some markdown in here. See, because the thing is, the way that it's doing these proposals right now, it's not actually giving us any context, it's only showing the message itself. But if I'm going through and trying to approve and reject these, then it's going to be a lot more helpful if it actually shows the messages. So I want 3 sections here. We're going to put the message history. This just kind of gives us some of the context from the chat room. Message history from the data. Then we're going to do new messages. We'll say new message with S in parentheses. And we'll say new messages from data. And finally, we'll put suggested response. And we'll just say suggested response. Cool, let's see how that does. So I'm going to say, tell me about Aidolons. And then I'll jump back over, give it a few minutes. All right, and here it is. Let's take a look. All right, and here's our proposal. And it followed the format pretty well, or at least it followed the format like it was told. But looking at this, one thing I realized is that this is kind of hard to read. So in the future, we can fix that by being a little bit more specific about the format. So here we'll put username, and then we'll say message. I'm going to copy that a few times. On the 3rd line, I'll go like this. And here I'm just saying that there might be more. I'm going to put this same format down here under new messages. So now it knows exactly how I want it to format. Let's jump back to our proposal. And you'll notice that for the suggested response, it has no idea what Aidolons is. But of course it doesn't. I didn't tell it. So here's how we can fix that. I'm going to go to Docs. I'm going to say New Document. And let's give it a title. We'll just say Aidolons information. And I'm going to my source view because I'm going to paste in a bunch of markdown. And this markdown is just a document that I prepared previously that just contains a lot of information about my company. All right, and now we have this document. And now my agents can access this so that they can always have the information that they need to get a basic idea of what's going on. So let's jump back and I'll go ahead and reject this. And now at the top of my workflow, I'll add a new heading. This one will say read first. And here, if I type the double square brackets, then I can see my docs here and I can select that link. And why don't we go ahead and title our workflow too? We'll call it respond to Discord. So now let's jump back to Discord and I'm just going to ask this exact same thing again. And let's watch our app. All right, and let's see how it does. Here's the new proposal. Let's review. First of all, our message formatting looks a lot nicer. And now the suggested response actually makes sense. Now let's say I wanted to make it just a little bit shorter. I could just go to the AI right here and say, make the response 10% shorter. And now it can come in here and actually make the changes for me. And let's go ahead and accept. And here in Discord, there is the response. And there we go. This is just a very small piece of agentic engineering created entirely in plain language. It blows my mind to see how complicated people make this process. People are using all kinds of apps that have nodes that you have to connect, writing entire complex code harnesses, when all you really need to do is just tell the AI what you want. And what's beautiful about this is now just one more thing I don't have to worry about. I don't know about anyone else, but I am terrible at keeping up with all of these kinds of things. With all of the chats and emails in 100 different places. And now this is running. I can walk away, close the page, and from time to time just check my inbox, review all of my pending proposals, and let the AI do all the hard work for me. So this was a tutorial on how to write plain language workflows. This technique can work with a lot of different agentic systems, but I strongly recommend giving Aidolons a try because it just makes everything so freaking easy with the streamlined human-in-the-loop, built-in asset management, docs, customizable agents, and the ability to keep track of all of the workflow runs. Like and subscribe to learn more about plain language agentic engineering. Hope you learned something today, and I'll see you next time.